We are here about Thrive4Home, and we want to walk through the steps. So many people say, okay, I get it. Now I know how to make the introduction to the client themselves, and they know in general the philosophy of the Thrive4Home in the big picture. Now what we want to do is actually walk through what are the exact steps. So this is not about role play right now. We want you to understand what are the steps for Thrive4Home. So if you watched the last video, you saw that we were making the introduction to the client, and we were talking about, for them specifically, how I, as the loan officer, promised that within 24 hours, they're not going to have someone reach out from my team. You notice I said my team. This isn't just about Thrive, it's about my team. And we're not going to talk about basic. Basic is you're going to have to do each of these steps yourself. If we want to do that, that is absolutely fine. Just please make sure that there is methodology and philosophy of each one of these steps that you are going to continue to learn as you watch these videos. For now, what we're going to talk about is Thrive4Home Premium. It is a really unique program. Nobody else in the industry has this. I wanted to do something like this for 15 years, and Steve found a way to do it. And Roy and Thrive ultimately gave us the structure and the model to allow us. So this is really cool. So Steve, Thrive4Home Premium. We ended our last training with me telling you as the client, you're going to have a contact within the next 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Could you now walk us through step by step? What do I need to do as the loan officer?
Sure.
And then what is the client going to start to experience?
So from a loan officer perspective, the very first thing you're going to do is get a loan application. You're going to pull credit, because without that information, you don't know if they need
standard
credit.
pre-approval.
Yeah.
What do you do
stuff,
anytime?
Right? So we've done the loan application, pulled credit. They're not going to qualify for a program. Whatever the situation is, we're not going to qualify for. On Encompass, right now, you can go to the non-QM questionnaire. When you go to that screen, towards the bottom, you have 3 buttons for Thrive4Home. One is documents. One is loan officer enrollment. So you as the loan officer, if you're ready to enroll in that program and use the program, you click that button. And the third check mark says enroll my client in Thrive4Home. When you check that box and you save the file, it's all in one page. When you check that box and save the file, it automatically generates data on your client and sends it to the Thrive4Home administrator, ready to go. The administrator gets that email. And the very first thing they do is say, they're going to send an email to you as the loan officer, letting you know, hey, congratulations for enrolling a client. They're immediately going to reach out to your client and say, we're so excited that you've enrolled in Thrive4Home. Congratulations on qualifying for the program, for lack of a better description. And let's get started. So
how could I, as the loan officer, specify, hey, they want a call?
Sure.
Versus they want an email or they want a text? Would you advise that I should get that clarity from that client?
You can, absolutely. In that case, you would need to generate an email to the Thrive4Home program administrator, and then they can put that together for you, no problem at all. So that's something we have access to. Okay. And that data is immediately delivered when you click that save button on the Encompass file itself.
So it sounds like me as the loan officer needs to make sure that when I tell folks someone's going to be reaching out to you, be looking for an email and respond to them quickly so that we can get you into this program and then ultimately get you into home. So create a sense of urgency.
Absolutely. Make sure that they pay attention to what's coming out and set expectations. And we'll even tell you the name of the administrator. Hey, you're going to get an email from Jennifer, right? It's going to come from Jennifer Radaba. Expect that. And it's really important that when you get this email, I need you to reply right away, because the faster you do this, the faster we can see you in your home. And so set those expectations for quick responses.
Okay, so now the borrower does get that notice, and tell me then what they have to do and what is this program ultimately for them?
Okay, so what's going to happen next is there's going to be a DocuSign agreement that goes out to the loan officer and the borrower. And it is a commitment stating that we are aligning with you side by side. Here's what we're going to do for you. Here's what we need the borrower to do. And here's what your loan officer is going to do. All 3 of us sign it. And so it's an agreement that we're all going to work together to get this client where they need to go. So that's going to be pre-formatted, sent out to you from the Thrive4Home administrator. And then after they assign that document, that's the first litmus test for our purposes, right?
And that's what I was going to throw in. You're exactly right. Folks, there's a methodology to this, because we need to weed out those who are serious about following through and those who are not, because this is expensive for us to administer, much cheaper than what the cost will be that you would participate in. And so we want to find out how serious are people. This commitment is not like a legal contract, as in they're going to be out money or something. No. It really is about, are you willing to make a commitment to work with us?
Absolutely. It's whether, can you check the box and sign the DocuSign? Because that's step 1.
Perfect.
Right? If we can get them past that litmus test, our pull-through ratios just went up.
Love that. And
Right.
give me an idea of what that means. So out of 10 people, if they sign that, how many can I expect to close as a loan officer?
Usually they'll commit. So if we get 10 people that say, I'm committed to go to the Thrive4Home program, of the 10 that get the DocuSign document, we're seeing if it's properly prepared by the loan officer, about 70% will sign that document.
That's significant. That's exciting. So now all of a sudden I'm talking about 7 more closings out of those 10 referrals that I just sent.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's step 1. What's the next step?
So once that's signed and back, Jennifer or the Thrive4Home administrator is going to reach out to your client and go over that information with them and make sure they understand everything and say, okay, here's your next steps.
They're going to call them. How long would that call be?
It's really up to the client because it's about how many questions they have. So Jennifer's job is to introduce herself, say hello. Do you understand what's going on here? Do you understand what the process looks like? What questions do you have for me?
And how are they scheduling that?
So there's a couple different ways that can be scheduled. One is Calendly. So for example, if we want to put a call on Jennifer's calendar to reach out to them at a specific time, we can do it that way. Or if we don't have that delineated, then she'll reach out as soon as she possibly can in the order that they were received.
Perfect.
And Jennifer knows that we've gone over this a long time, that if we can't reach them by phone, we're sending a text. If we can't reach them by text, we're sending an email.
Okay.
So we're going to use all 3 options to get that client's information and get him interaction. The interaction's key.
So as a loan officer, when can I expect to hear if a couple days go by and that client has not responded back? Will I know that?
The goal is 48 hours. So if we can't reach that client for 48 hours, Randall, we should be reaching back out to the loan officer and saying, hey, look, we're not having any commitment here. We're not having any communication. Is there another way for us to communicate with this borrower? Do they have a realtor we can get involved?
Exactly.
Who do we need to reach out to make sure that everybody's working together to get that client where they need to go?
And those are the steps we're going to talk about, because what great opportunities to have more contact with agents, out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely.
So this keeps you in front of agents and they see how hard you're working to get them more closings as well. That's cool. Okay. So step 1 is they're going to sign that DocuSign. Step 2, they're going to have a conversation with one of your administrators. What's step 3?
Step 3 is the administrator is going to talk to them about credit restoration. They're always going to give 2 options. Option 1 is they can do credit work on their own. Option 2 is they can work with one of many credit restoration companies that we've worked with in the past or that they like or whatever it may be. The key is, and the Thrive administrator's job is to make it very clear that our pull-through ratios and success ratios are much higher when you have an expert or professional working on your behalf on your credit, because working on credit's a full-time job. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever tried to do this before. It's a complicated process. You need somebody who knows the process. And so we've worked with many credit restoration companies that have designed their programs to fit Thrive4Home. And so we get updates on the status of the client. All those things are involved. And we actually have some who will do a free analysis. The very first analysis is free. So our job is to get them in communication with that portal, get that first analysis free or at no cost. And then that client has a very clear picture of, okay, this is what's next. Is there a cost involved? On the credit restoration side, if we're using an additional company, yes, there is a cost involved. However, the costs are in my opinion, very reasonable. And that is the second litmus test. So if we get them that free analysis and they commit to the credit repair company or credit restoration company and pay the fee, our likelihood of closing that client is in the 80 to 90% range. If they say, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own, literally, Randall, it goes down to well less than 5%. It's very difficult to get somebody past the finish line if they're doing it on their own, because there's always a reason they haven't done it.
Well, they're not an expert on it. It's going to take them time. They need to write letters they really don't understand.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to have to get good at is, again, not selling people on it, but clarifying and explaining and showing them the value.
Absolutely.
The value being, how much are they spending right now by being in a difficult credit position? What's their extra cost on everything that they're paying for versus let's make a one-time investment and improve credit and probably have to change some habits and lifestyles in order to do that. But that's where the agent's going to come in, and we'll talk more about that later on, and how the agent can be that motivator and inspire to stay involved in the program. Using your agent, this is a great way to work together. As Steve earlier explained, of the 4 in the Thrive4Home, it's us, the agent, the client, and the credit repair. We're all going to work together in order to get them into that home. All right, so that's the third step, is explaining that. And let me make a quick audit about this. I'm a salesperson, but I know from a compliance standpoint, we got to be really careful when we talk about using credit repair. We're not going to put this in any kind of publications. It's not going to be in any flyers, and we have to be very careful about that. And there's reasons for that, so just trust us why you want to do that. But are there reputable organizations that are truly there to help? Yes.
Sure.
And it's always the client's option of who to use, when to use, and how much to pay. We're not going to direct them at any shape in that. So that's the third step. What's the next step?
The next step is communication. Maintaining communication with the realtor, maintaining communication with the loan officer, maintaining communication with the client. So
how often?
So at a minimum of once every 30 days. What generally happens, though, is it alternates every 2 weeks. So it may be an automated email that goes out on our drip campaigns in 2 weeks, and then Jennifer will make a call 2 weeks later. Or it may be a text message. It just depends on what the situation is with the client. So if the client runs into a problem, in that case, it's an automatic call, right? Hey, want to give you guys a heads up. They ran into this situation. It's put them back. Or congratulations, they've moved way faster than we expected them to move, and they qualified 60 days earlier than we thought. And then we kick them back to you as the loan officer. But at a minimum, you should receive some form of communication bi-monthly, but it may be an automated response and then a phone call or a text message that's personalized once a month.
So here's the cool thing as a loan officer. Remember, once I made the transition and I told him he would be hearing from somebody, that client is now totally in the hands of the Thrive4Home Premium. I don't have to be involved. What I do want to do is be able to give updates to an agent once in a while, and that's going to be up to me and how much I want to be involved in that. But again, we're going to talk about the psychology of that and ways to leverage this program with keeping you in front of agents in a later time. But it's all up to you ultimately as the loan officer how engaged you want to be. What would you say is the average incubation period then for a buyer? So you went through the steps. They're working with credit repair, credit counseling, and now it's about communication, keeping involved. What's that typical timeline? What should a borrower expect?
Usually it's somewhere between 4 and 6 months to completion.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty straightforward. Now, we've had some where we've gotten foreclosures removed or bankruptcies removed that were not filed correctly, and those took substantially more time. But generally speaking, it's in 6 months or less, you're going to qualify the vast majority of your clients, as long as they follow instructions.
And the final step ultimately, obviously, is
congratulations.
They're in a position to buy. How do they find that out? And then tell me what your team does to get the loan officer back involved.
What we want to do in that situation is get the loan officer to give them that good news.
Oh, I like that.
And so we want to give it back to the loan officer and say, all right, we're excited. They should be ready to go. Get them updated on the credit loan application and tell them the great news.
And what does that mean? Are you running that back through automated, or how are you saying that they're in a position to buy today?
So the final step is pulling the credit report again to make sure that everything has been done that is expected to have been done. The credit report is monitored throughout the entire process if they use a credit restoration company. And so we know with a high degree of accuracy that their scores should be X. And so at that point in time, when we kick it back to the loan officer's job would be to pull a new credit report, confirm it, and then issue the pre-qualification letter, call the realtor and the agent and say, guess what? Your client's now qualified, ready to go. I can't tell you how many times I've called an agent and told them, hey, remember John Smith? They're like, nope. Who's John Smith? I'm like, you gave him to me 8 months ago. I don't forget your clients. I take care of your clients and I bring them back to you. And it's amazing when their eyes just light up. They're like, are you kidding me? How valuable is that? And so, anyway, that's the final
incredible.
step.
And think about that. Our goal is that you'd be doing that 2, 3, 4, 5 times a month after you start building your incubation. So the model and motto is anyone can get qualified in 12 months.
Absolutely, 100%.
This is pretty cool. Thank you, everybody. I hope you keep watching our training sessions because this can revolutionize your business and help you get to a whole nother level in production. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Randall.